I didn't even see the house in person before I bought it. A few blurry listing photos, a price I couldn't say no to. A nervous sounding real estate agent who seemed a little too eager to close. But I was tired of the city, the people, the noise, so I signed. And 3 weeks later, I was here. The house didn't greet me. That's the best way I can describe it. It just stood there, silent and indifferent, like it hadn't noticed I'd arrived. It wasn't abandoned, but it felt like something had been missing from it for a very long time. Something it had quietly learned to live without. I walked through it slowly, room by room. No family photos on the walls. No leftover furniture. Just empty spaces and faint water stains on the ceilings. The hardwood floor creaked like it had stage fright. I told myself I liked the quiet, but I kept catching myself holding my breath. Like the house was waiting for me to say something first. By nightfall, I was already second guessing everything. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being tolerated, not welcomed. Like I was an unexpected guest in a place that had long forgotten what it meant to be lived in, while moving a box into what would eventually be my office. I noticed a ripple in the wallpaper, a sagging seam tucked behind a dusty curtain. Something about it felt off, not in a this needs renovation kind of way, but in a why would someone want to hide this kind of way. I peeled it back. There was a door, small, low, like it had been built for someone who didn't want to be found. The wood was darker than the rest of the house, and the handle was old brass, stained with age. I hesitated, suddenly aware of how silent everything had become. No wind outside, no creaks. Just a low, humming tension. I opened it anyway. A narrow staircase led downward into complete black. No light switch. The smell hit me immediately, wet dirt, mold, and something chemical underneath. Like rotting film stock. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped down. It was colder than it should have been. The kind of cold that made your joints ache. My boots tapped on the wooden steps, echoing too loudly in the tight stairwell. The air was so still, I could hear the blood in my ears. At the bottom, the basement unfolded like a forgotten museum exhibit. Piles of boxes, cobweb-draped tools, crumbling shelves that hadn't seen movement in years. But it was clean in a strange way, too clean. Like someone had taken care to keep it preserved, not used. That's when I saw the box. It sat in the middle of the floor, no dust on top, not tucked away, not hidden. Placed like a gift. I knelt down, lifted the lid. Inside, Polaroids. Dozens, no labels, just photos. The first few were odd fuzzy shots of trees at night, rooftops, alleyways. All slightly out of focus, like whoever took them was in a rush or didn't want to be seen. Then I saw it, a photo of me. Not posed, not staged, just on me, walking on a sidewalk. I recognize. Another. Me, sitting in my car, eyes closed. Another, carrying groceries into my old building. All from behind windows, from a distance. Always watching. I kept flipping. Each photo came closer, newer, sharper, until I reached the final one. I was standing in the living room, in this house, holding a box. The exact one I just carried in. Earlier that day, the photo had been taken from outside the window. Hadn't even noticed it was open. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the couch with every light on, the open Polaroids scattered across the coffee table like puzzle pieces. No matter how many times I looked at them, they didn't make more sense. If anything, they made less. I kept glancing toward the window. The curtain swayed slightly, even though nothing outside moved. Every sound made me flinch, the creak of the floorboards, the hum of the refrigerator, the wind brushing against the roof. They weren't normal sounds anymore. They were questions the house was asking, and I didn't have any answers. By morning, I had taped the basement door shut. Childish, maybe. Pointless, probably. But I needed to believe I had some kind of control. I even moved a chair in front. Out of it, like the thin legs of wooden furniture would stop whatever had taken those pictures. I told myself I'd leave. I'd pack a bag, get in the car, and just keep driving. But when I grabbed my keys, my body froze because what if someone or something wanted me to leave? What if I was already exactly where it wanted me? That night, the house changed. It wasn't just the heaviness in the air anymore. It felt like something was aware of me now. Like it had blinked awake and realized it wasn't alone. The first sound came around 2:30 a.m. Footsteps. Soft. Deliberate, coming from above. I stared at the ceiling. The attic. I hadn't even opened the door up there yet. I sat up, heart in my throat. Then the footsteps stopped just as they reached the spot directly over my bed. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I must have stayed that way for over an hour, eyes locked on the ceiling, trying to convince myself I imagined it. That the house was settling. That the noise was nothing, but the next night it happened again. This time, it wasn't just footsteps. It was whispers thread thin. Voices leaking through the vents, barely audible. I pressed my ear to the wall. The voice was dry and distant, repeating something I couldn't understand. It was like hearing someone talk through a dream. Every hour I spent in that house, I felt more unwelcome. The walls didn't feel solid anymore. They felt hollow. Like something was crawling just behind them, learning my routines. And then, on the third morning, I opened the front door and saw a single Polaroid, resting neatly on the doormat. No envelope. No note. Just the photo. I picked it up with numb fingers, already knowing what I was about to see. It was me. In bed. Asleep. My face turned toward the camera. My body curled under the sheets. The room, lit only by the faint glow of the moon through the window. The photo was taken from no more than 5 feet away, from inside the house. I dropped it, stumbled back, slammed the door shut. I locked every window, checked every closet, every cabinet, every crawl space. I even opened the attic door for the first time. Dust choked the air, but no one was up there. Nothing I could see. But I didn't feel alone anymore. I hadn't for a while. I knew now the photos weren't old memories. They were live transmissions. Something in this house had been watching me long before I arrived. And now it was getting closer. I didn't sleep again after finding that photo. Every creak in the walls sounded like a breath. Every shift in shadow felt deliberate. Even blinking felt risky, like I might open my eyes and find something standing too close. I didn't know who else to call. I had no friends in town, no neighbors I trusted. But the real estate agent's number was still saved in my phone. I didn't expect her to pick up, especially this early. But she answered on the second ring, her voice groggy. "This is Mallory," she said. I didn't waste time. "You sold me a house with a basement full of Polaroids of me." There was silence on the line, long enough for me to start thinking she'd hung up. Then, "You found the basement." It wasn't a question. It was resignation. My throat tightened. "You knew?" Another pause. Then her voice dropped to a whisper, like she was afraid someone might be listening. "You weren't supposed to go down there. I didn't want to scare you off, but you're not the first." I felt my stomach twist. "Not the first what?" She exhaled shakily. "Owner, renter, squatter. Call them what you want. Everyone who lived there before you. They all left. Some vanished. A few made it out, but refused to talk about it. The police were called once, but there was nothing to find, just an empty basement and a house that didn't want to explain itself." Sat down, the photo still trembling in my hand. "What is this place?" Her voice wavered. "Do you remember the name on the listing? The original owner?" "You probably didn't look. No one does." I hadn't. I never cared. I was in such a rush to disappear into the woods that I hadn't bothered reading past the price. Martin Blake. She said, photographer. Lived there in the late 80s. Real recluse. People in town thought he was just a loner, until someone found his studio full of photos. Just hundreds. Thousands strangers. Always strangers. Always strangers. People he followed, watched, documented, and always with a Polaroid. A cold numbness crawled down my arms. He disappeared in 93. No note, nobody, just gone. But there were rumors. People said they saw camera flashes from the windows at night, long after he vanished. Like someone was still in there, collecting something. I didn't know what to say. I think I stopped breathing for a moment. She continued, voice growing, smaller. I thought maybe it stopped. Maybe whatever was happening died with him. But now you're calling me, and I don't think it ever ended. I felt the house listening. I ended the call for the rest of the day. I sat in the living room with the basement door in sight, not daring to take my eyes off it. My mind ran wild. I thought about the Polaroids, about Martin Blake, about what kind of person makes fear into an art form, and what kind of thing keeps taking photos. Long after the artist is gone, that evening, something strange happened, as the sun set. I caught a flicker of movement down the hallway. I followed it without thinking, heart pounding. Every step felt like it might trigger something, an image. A memory, a trap, but nothing was there. Only the mirror in the hallway. Catching the last light of day in something else. A new Polaroid. Tucked into the corner of the frame. I pulled it free, hands shaking. It was me again. Standing in the hallway. Taken just seconds ago. And behind me, reflected faintly in the mirror, a shape. Not quite human. Long. Distorted. Watching after the mirror photo, something broke in me. Not snap-shifted. Like my mind had accepted something it had been resisting all along. I wasn't alone here. And I never had been. For the next few nights, I kept the lights on. Slept. In short, jagged bursts with a hammer clutched in my fist, like it would matter. I didn't go near the basement. I didn't open the attic again. But no matter what I tried, the house kept speaking not in words, in flashes. I'd walk past a window at night and see the faint afterglow of a camera flash from somewhere in the trees. I'd hear the whir of a Polaroid ejecting. Once I saw something. Small fall from the ceiling vent. It was a photo still warm. Still developing. A picture of me brushing my teeth in the bathroom 10 minutes earlier. I started digging. I searched online forums. Subreddits, archived newspaper clippings. Anything. With the name Martin Blake. There wasn't much. He hadn't exactly been a public figure. But what I did find was worse than I expected. He was obsessed with capturing fear. Not violence, not pain. Fear. The instant before the scream. The second your brain realizes something is wrong, but your body hasn't moved yet. He called it the truth of the soul. He photographed strangers in their most vulnerable moments. Lost, afraid, confused. A twisted kind of honesty. But the part that stuck with me was a comment, buried in a long-forgotten thread. They say he never stopped taking pictures, even after he disappeared. They say the house helps him now. I couldn't ignore it anymore. Photos were changing. They weren't just of me now. They were of this moment, of what I hadn't done yet. One photo showed me standing at the top of the basement stairs. Holding a flashlight, another showed me partway down. I hadn't even moved. Yet, the final one, it showed me at the bottom, Polaroids in hand, something standing behind me. I should have run. Left the house. Set it on fire. But something about the photo pulled me. Like it was a script I had to follow. A scene I hadn't finished performing. That night, I opened the basement door again. The air was colder. Heavier. The kind of cold that felt alive, like it had a pulse. I stepped slowly down the stairs, flashlight flickering. My breaths came in foggy bursts. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was expectant. Like the house knew I was coming back. At the bottom. It was different this time. There were new Polaroids, scattered in a crooked line leading into the far corner. They hadn't been there before. I picked one up. It was me. Just now, stepping off the last stair, I grabbed another. Me reaching down to pick up the first photo, then another. Me looking at that one. Every second of my life was being recorded. Developed, displayed. And then I found the last one. It hadn't finished developing yet. The photo was still murky, colors bleeding into shape, and when it cleared, I nearly dropped it. It was me holding the photo. But behind me, no more than a few feet away, stood a figure. Gaunt, hollow-eyed, a Polaroid camera pressed to its chest. I turned. There was nothing, but the basement door slammed shut above me, loud and final. The flashlight flickered once. Twice, then died. I was alone in the dark. At least. I think I was. until I heard the whisper, barely audible behind me. Say cheese. Say cheese. The words came like a breath down my neck dry, close, and wrong. I turned fast, swinging the dead flashlight like a weapon, but it cut through nothing but stale air and shadows. My heartbeat thudded in my ears, drowning out everything else. Dot then dash. Flash. A burst of white light from the far end of the basement momentarily lit up the entire room. It was quick, cold, and blinding. I staggered backward, blinking away the afterimage burned into my eyes. The scent of burning film filled the air. When my vision returned, he was there, standing near the wall, half swallowed by darkness, gaunt, sunken-eyed. His face stretched thin, too thin, like it had been pulled tight across a skull that didn't quite match human dimensions. He wore an old moth-eaten coat, and in his withered hands, clutched tightly against his chest, was a Polaroid camera, a relic. A weapon. His fingers twitched, and the lens clicked again. Flash. I cried out, shielding my eyes. When the light faded, he was closer. Just a few steps, no sound, no movement, just nearer. The photos had never stopped. He hadn't stopped. Martin Blake was still here. Beautiful, he whispered, voice cracked and echoing, like it came from somewhere behind. The walls. Still afraid. That's the best time to catch them. Another click, another flash. Every time he took a photo, I felt weaker. Like something was being siphoned out of me. My legs ached. My vision blurred around the edges. My skin felt cold, like it didn't quite belong to me anymore. I staggered to the floor, crawling through the mess of scattered photographs. Hundreds of them, thousands, all faces locked in expressions of fear. Strangers, people, who had stood where I was standing now. People who never left. I saw myself over and over again, captured mid-motion, mid-panic. I could practically hear my own scream looping through the grainy paper. Another flash. Another step closer. His mouth didn't move when he spoke. You came back. They always do. They want to understand. They want to see. But I'm the only one who sees clearly. I reached blindly through the debris, my fingers closing around something solid, heavy, familiar. The old Polaroid camera. His camera. The one I had knocked from his hands the first night before I fled. I didn't remember picking it up. I didn't remember bringing it back here. But here it was. He froze. Don't, he rasped. Voice hardening. My fingers found the shutter button. I will, I said. I aimed. He lunged. Clicked. The flash burst like a small explosion, brighter than anything before it. It didn't just light the room, it pierced it. Like sunlight through deep water. For a split second, I saw him clearly. He wasn't just a man anymore. He was made of photos. His skin was layers of curled film, stuck together in patches. His eyes, camera lenses. His bone framed negatives. Each time he took a picture, he stole more life, more eerie. And this time, I took a piece of him. He howled, a sound like a film reel shredding, and staggered backward. His body shuddered, flickering like a corrupted video file. I kept snapping flash after flash, each one hitting him like a strike. He tried to shield himself, but every burst peeled away another layer, exposing something underneath. Something darker. Something void. One last photo. One final shot. I took it. The flash detonated in white. When the light cleared, he was gone. No footsteps. No scream. Just silence. I stood alone in the basement, surrounded by curled Polaroids still whispering. In their chemical haze, the camera burned hot in my hand, but I didn't let go. I couldn't. Then I looked down. The photo I had just taken slid out of the camera. Slow and quiet. I watched it develop. It showed an empty basement. Just space. Just silence. No figure. No me. Just a room without witnesses. For a few seconds, I didn't move. I kept staring at the photo, heart hammering against my ribs, waiting for anything to change. But the image stayed still, no shadows creeping in, no ghostly face emerging behind me. Just emptiness. He was gone. The camera in my hands had cooled, its hum now silent. It felt like a relic again, just plastic and film. Whatever life it had. Before it drained out with that last flash, still trembling, I dropped it onto the basement floor and stepped back. My legs felt foreign, like they hadn't moved in days. But they carried me up the stairs, through the hallway, past the sagging wallpaper, and the dusty frames that never held pictures. The front door stood open, swaying slightly in the breeze, like it had been waiting for me. I crossed the threshold without looking back. I don't remember driving away. I know I did because I woke up parked at a gas station, 2 towns over with sunrise painting the windows gold and my hands still clenched. On the wheel. The weight in my chest was still there, but it had changed. The house hadn't followed me, not this time. No photos on the windshield, no whispers from the vents, no figure in the mirror. Just morning.real morning. I stayed at a motel for a few days, too afraid to rest at first. But nothing happened. I ate. I slept. I existed in touch. That's what I knew. The cycle was broken. I had ended it. I waited until the last night before I acted. I drove back to town, parked a mile from the property, watched it from the tree lines at the house, sat quietly, dark and rotting, like it had aged a decade in a week. The porch sagged. The shutters hung loose. The basement window had been blown open. Polaroids scattered across the dirt like autumn leaves. I poured the gasoline slowly, carefully, all around the base, in through the mail slot, down the stairs, into the basement. I lit a single match and dropped it. The fire didn't roar, it breathed, low and slow. It was like the house wanted to go. It took the flame in with a sigh, and within minutes the windows were glowing orange from within. I thought I heard a final click from somewhere inside, but maybe that was just memory. I stood and watched until the roof collapsed, until the lens of that old place melted into nothing. That was weeks ago. Now I sleep. I eat. I live. Sometimes I still hear phantom sounds in the dark footsteps. Faint. Shutter clicks, but they fade fast. Like echoes finally losing their grip. I kept one thing from the house. One photo. The last one I took. The one that showed nothing at all. I keep it in my wallet, not as a reminder of fear, but of freedom. Of the moment I stopped being the subject, and became the one holding the camera. If you found a box of Polaroids showing your every move from before you even moved in, would you run? Or look deeper? Let me know in the comments what you would have done.